Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me here. And after all these discussions about social entrepreneurship, if you're wondering what one looks like, well, here I am. It's really nice to be one out of over 1,500 Ashoka Fellows now that span 55 countries around the world, and it's growing every day. I just wanted to start off by saying that in 1987, I was working as an energy engineer, and my job was to transfer energy technologies to these remote villages in the Himalayas. And I found that convincing the adult population who were mostly illiterate was a very tough thing to do. How do you get them to adopt hydropower or solar or biogas? Not an easy task to do. So I wanted to find a solution as to how the adaptability would be easier. And so like all lazy people, I was just trying to find an easy way to do my job. And what I found was that instead of convincing the adults in the villages, it was much easier to educate the school-going children. And so through the school-going children, I could actually convince their parents much quicker. So basically what I had evolved was a system whereby experts would train college-level youth, the college-level youth would train school children, and the school children would train their parents. And when they all came together, we got our projects implemented very quickly. So, the question in the earlier session about why do you do it, I think because we all like to find easy ways, to solve our problem. And so, Bill Drayton, who is the founder of Ashoka, came to Nepal in '87 to interview me and said, "You are a social entrepreneur." So that's how I became a social entrepreneur. Now, just based on, many years of, I'm very lucky to be part of this Ashoka network, which allowed me to travel to different parts of the world. And what I'm going to tell you now is just to briefly tell you, what is the value that social entrepreneurs bring to the table so that we can share it in forums like this. A little bit about what do they do, not case by case, but in general, what are some of the things they're doing. And then to get to this whole issue of inertia, where if we don't do it, then what would be the implications? Because believe me, I'm a mechanical engineer, and I know about inertia. So, let's, get into this. So the first thing I wanted to tell, and just to follow from Pamela's presentation, is that a lot of people ask, what next? What next, in a social entrepreneur's life? And she mentioned, things like serial entrepreneurs or things like that. I just wanted to say that once you enter into the social entrepreneurship arena, there is no such thing as an exit strategy. So there is no exit strategy. So the story that I have to tell you is that, initially, when we worked in Nepali villages, we asked people with a large family, why did you have so many children? And the answer would be, because we are afraid they would die. So we said, well, how are children dying? Well, because the water is polluted. So he said, clean the water. So that was the first task that we had to do. Then after a few months, we would go back and say, well, how is the situation? The water is clean, but it's too far away. So he said, look, we have to bring the water close to the village. So we would use mechanical devices and things to bring the water close to the village. Few months later, we would go to the village and say, how are things? And the women used to say, the 3 hours that we spent getting the water was the only time we had away from our mother-in-laws. So, welcome to the world of social entrepreneurship. There is no exit, strategy out of it. The value that these individuals, these social entrepreneurs bring to the table, first of all, I think, what is most critical after meeting many social entrepreneurs is they are the change that we seek. Now, that's a very powerful statement. If you cannot be the change that you seek, then forget about it. It's simply not worth it. And again, what history has proven is that those who succeed are people who actually can become the change that they seek. So if you are in a mode where you are prescribing to others, it just simply doesn't work. You have to live the change that you seek. So this is number one. Number two, the transition from knowing to doing to actually being is a very, very difficult transition. A lot of us know a lot of things. A lot of us do lots of things. But to actually be that change is a very big transition. And so again and again, you'll meet these fellows who are actually being, what they seek. Now, the third part is there is wizardry. Wizardry literally meaning magic. You look at a situation and say, this is completely hopeless. Nothing can be done. And then somebody says, I'll show you somebody, or I'll introduce you to somebody who is actually doing it. So there is no such thing as it cannot be done. There is no such thing as, it will never happen. Because again and again, you'll go around the world and find somebody who is actually doing it. And that seems to be the magic, or the wizardry of social entrepreneurship. Example, Colombo, in Sri Lanka, there's a slum through which this Ashoka fellow, his name is Darren, used to drive from his job at the stock market. And every day from the stock market, as he went home, he said, what can I do about this slum? So he came up with an idea where he established a stock market for slum dwellers, where the stock or the share that these people own is the square feet of land that they occupied. He moved them into vertical apartments, giving them equivalent spaces, in the apartments. So like one, say ground floor square feet was say worth 6 square feet in an apartment on the 6th floor. So what happens was he was able to empty the ground space in Colombo, and by moving them into vertical spaces, he was able to empty, the spaces. By auctioning this land in Colombo, he makes a 600% profit while solving the slum problem. Sounds like magic to me. So when the whole world is saying, what do we do about slums? Well, go to Colombo and see Darren. And he obviously has a solution that works. Okay? So there is magic. The other is the consistency. And again, this was mentioned many times. There is no such thing as, I got stuck. There is no such thing as, what next? Because these people are constantly finding ways. And then what I wanted to share with you, especially with the young at heart and the young, mind, is a story that is told in South Asia again and again. It's a story about the turtle and the hare, or the rabbit and the tortoise. Now, every child in Asia grows up with this very simple story that says the rabbit and the turtle decided to race. The rabbit knew it was fast, decided to take a nap. The turtle went ahead and won the race. The storybooks end there. Now, do you know what happened the next day? Well, the next day, the rabbit said, let's run again. So who do you think won the race? The rabbit won. Why did the rabbit win? Because it learned from yesterday. The rabbit learned not to take a nap in the middle of the race. What do you think happened on the third day? Well, you think the turtle went to sleep. The turtle went back to the rabbit and said, let's run again. So the rabbit said, what's the point? I'm going to win anyway. So the turtle said, okay, I'll choose the route. The rabbit says, choose anything. So they run. They come to a river. The rabbit doesn't know how to swim, so the turtle wins the race. So if you can, breed a whole generation of young Asians who believe tomorrow is another day, I think we will have entrepreneurship. We'll overcome inertia. Because for everybody, tomorrow will be another day. So it doesn't matter what you are facing, what challenges you have today, but tomorrow will be another day. And so this, again, is something that, social entrepreneurs bring to the table.